The Barbara Walters Special.
So, you have been nominated for an Academy Award. When you heard about it, what was your first reaction?
Disbelief, then shock, then, you know, I think I went through the 7 stages of death or something.
How do you think Humphrey Bogart would feel if you won?
Oh, I think he'd be very proud of me. I think he'd be very happy that I am at least being given credit for being an actress, because, you know, I never really have been.
Would you care if you never won an Academy Award?
Haven't won one yet.
Hasn't seemed to diminish you. Hasn't.
I'm still doing okay.
You're still smiling. Theater owners named him the star of the century. We know him as Harrison Ford, and what a year he is having. The Star Wars trilogy is sweeping the nation, and his new thriller, The Devil's Own, opens in just a few days. He is known for being a man of few words and few interviews, but tonight he opens up, and the news is that Harrison Ford is funny, particularly describing how he went from master carpenter to the most successful star in motion picture history. We also have 2 other stars hoping to make motion picture history this Oscar evening. The gregarious Woody Harrelson, nominated for Best Actor in The People vs. Larry Flint, and the gracious Lauren Bacall, nominated for Best Supporting Actress in The Mirror Has Two Faces. One is known for doing almost anything, and the other for saying almost anything. And tonight we catch them both at their unpredictable best. So, Woody Harrelson, Lauren Bacall, and finally, Harrison Ford. It's Oscar night, and the force is with us. We hope you will be too.
The Barbara Walters Special will continue with Lauren Bacall and Harrison.
How wonderful to have 2 compassionate daughters.
The film is The Mirror Has Two Faces.
Well?
Oh, my God.
And it's a career capper for Lauren Bacall, nominated tonight for Best Supporting Actress.
You're the mother of the bride, not the opening act.
Fine. I'll go home and change.
Oh, stop it. We're late already.
Rose, who's on the phone?
Some feel the character captures Bacall's personality as much as Bacall captures the character. Surface strength, inner doubts, the undisclosed interior life of a woman who has been a star for over half a century.
How did it feel?
How did what feel?
Being beautiful?
Stop it.
No, I mean it. How did that feel?
It was wonderful.
The first thing you need to know is that no one calls her Lauren. It's either Betty, her real name, or Miss Bacall. Second, although she was married to Humphrey Bogart for only 11 years, and he was 25 years her senior, much of her life has been spent in the great actor's shadow. That suits her just fine.
What'd you do that for?
I'm wondering whether I'd like it.
What's the decision?
I don't know yet.
From her debut film to Have and Have Not in 1944 until Bogart's death in 1957, their relationship was as much a part of Hollywood history as Oscar itself.
You know how to whistle, don't you, Steve? You just put your lips together and blow.
Betty Davis once said Bacall was perfect for Bogart because she matched his insolence.
Speaking of horses, I like to play them myself. But I like to see them work out a little first.
And you could feel it on screen in movies like The Big Sleep.
Got a touch of class, but I don't know how far you can go.
A lot depends on who's in the saddle.
Her productive acting years were mostly sacrificed to be wife to Bogey and mother to their 2 children, a son and daughter. But she never complained. She made other films, was a smash on Broadway, and had an unsuccessful second marriage to actor Jason Robards, with whom she also had a son. She says she'll never live in Hollywood because she is the consummate New Yorker,
Are you going to slice us some Nova?
Often shopping at Zabar's Gourmet Delicatessen on Manhattan's Upper West Side.
Good luck at the awards.
Thank you. I'll need it.
Tonight at age 72, she has been nominated not for the woman she was, but for the woman she is. How important is it to you if you win or if you lose? And don't tell me that you don't care who wins, it's just the pleasure of being nominated, because I won't believe you.
I know. If I don't win, no. I'm trying not to think about it, frankly. I mean, I really have been trying to sell myself a bill of goods, talking to myself, saying, oh, no, it doesn't really matter, because it is true that there are no guarantees in my profession, you know, that very often something has come out of left field that has not been heard of before, and suddenly somebody wins that you didn't expect to win. So I do think it's possible, and I'll be as prepared as I can possibly be, which is, will all be fake, but I will be prepared.
You will applaud.
I'll go, hey, fabulous guy. But, I mean, it's an honor. It's the highest award you can receive in motion pictures, and for someone who's never received an award in motion pictures, it means something. It's interesting, because in film, my movie career has not been an easy one. It's been very up and down. And there were years when I couldn't get a job at all. I was doing all the game shows.
Since you have been nominated, how many parts have come in for you?
None.
No kidding.
No.
Really? I thought it was supposed to make such a big difference.
Well, it's supposed to make a difference, I suppose, after you win. I don't know. I mean, maybe it will make a difference.
Who are you going to go with?
My children, all of them, all three of them.
Oh, nice.
And their significant others, yes.
Do you think in a way that this is a Lifetime Achievement Award? You know, we love Lauren Bacall and she never got anything.
I hope it's not.
Yeah.
I hope it's not, because I have received Lifetime Achievement Awards before, which always makes me think that at a certain time in your life as an actor, you know, you start receiving them because you're the last one that's still alive. And I think I should just croak now. No, but I think that it's, I would like it to be for the work. I would prefer it to be for the work.
How do you think Humphrey Bogart would feel if you won?
Oh, I think he'd be very proud of me. I think he'd be very happy that I, at last, you know, that I am at least being given credit for being an actress. Because, you know, I never really have been. I've always been thought of as a personality, a name, a star, whatever you want to call me, but not as an actress. I've not been taken seriously for the most part. And so this recognition means a lot to me because of that. Because the nomination, in actual fact, comes as a result of the actors voting.
Yep.
And so, in that way, it really means the most.
Do you remember the night that Bogey won the Oscar for Best Actor? For
Yes, and I was going to say, yes, right, that was in 1951.
What was it like?
Only 10 years ago.
Yeah.
No, but that was, what was extraordinary about that, you see, is that it was done at Grauman's Chinese. It was not televised. It was very spontaneous, and one had the real feeling, the sense that everyone knew everyone, that we all knew each other, and when he won, his name was called, the whole audience cheered, which of course he didn't expect. And it was a much more exciting and much more industry-oriented award.
It's a very different Hollywood.
Well, it's all about television now. It's not and I think that's too bad, because I think it's less personal, and I wish it were more personal. I
often ask, what do you think is the biggest misconception about you? And I can't think of anybody whom I could say that with more honesty than with you, because there is such a misconception about you. What do you think it is?
I guess people don't think of me as a human being, in a way, and as a woman who has frailties, who, you know, problems. She never has any problems, you know. She's always in control. She always manages her life. Nothing phases her. Well, that's, of course, ridiculous. After all, I'm a woman. I've fended for myself for a long, long time. Brought up 3 kids by myself. Not an easy thing, you know, and I make all the decisions for myself. So it's hard. And I suppose, over the years, I've built up a certain veneer to protect myself. But in actual fact, I mean, I'm not like that at all. I'm still a pushover and hypersensitive and ridiculous.
2 out of 3 I agree with. Not put, you know,
but
you
I'm crazy too. I'm a cuckoo, you know.
Yeah.
You have to be a little crazy to stay in this business. You really do.
Your son, Steve, wrote a book recently about his father, a very good book, as a matter of fact, called Bogart in Search of My Father. And he writes lovingly of you, but also somewhat critically.
Yes, quite critically. No, I've talked to him about that. I said, thanks a lot, Steve.
He says that you are a perfectionist, that you demand excellence from everyone, particularly your children.
That's true. I demand it from people that I work with, too. Because I give 150% of myself, and I want everyone else to do the same.
Tough on kids.
Sure it is. Well, I mean, I guess I'm tough on kids. I don't know. I mean, I want them to be better than they ever thought they could be. All I can say is that I did the best I could do.
And you like them.
And I like them. And they like me.
Most people don't know anything about your children. Tell us a bit about them.
I'm very proud of all of them. They're very different. Steve is my oldest. Steve and Leslie are my two Bogart children. And Steve is in television, producer, writer. And Leslie is my daughter, who was a nurse and has been combining that and yoga, and is a yoga therapist now. She works with people who have had heart problems, who have had other illnesses or injuries, and she is in service to humanity. She's a much better human than her mother. And Sam is my Robards child, and Sam...
Your son by Jason Robards.
Yes.
Sam's an actor.
And Sam is a wonderful, wonderful actor, and a great-looking guy, and he has not had the most luck of anyone I've ever known. His luck, in some ways, has been comparable to his mother's.
You said in a previous interview, all the men in my life were mistakes except Bogart.
Ah, well.
Ah, well. So is that you? Is that them? I mean...
Well, it's probably partially me. I probably am attracted to trouble, which I am, and I'm not attracted to easy men. And it doesn't always work out, obviously. That's why I say I was bloody lucky. Bogey wasn't easy, but I was lucky that he so adored me. The other guys adored me, but not for quite as long.
Betty, when you married Humphrey Bogart, he was 25 years older than you. You were his fourth wife?
Fourth.
Fourth wife.
I was his swan song.
Okay, he drank. What made it so great? All those things against it.
He was not an alcoholic. Not even close. Drinking was not a heavy problem with us. At the very beginning, I didn't know how to handle it because I was a kid. And I'd never drank. I couldn't stay up all those hours. He had much more energy than I had.
When you look back, I mean, you have been asked about Humphrey Bogart every single time anybody does an interview. But if I just said, tell me what image of your marriage or what day pops into your mind, what does?
Well, the fun we had. He was very funny. He had great humor. Our humor complemented one another. We really had a good time together. He was unusual. I've never known anyone whose standards were as high as Bogey's, and who actually lived his life by the 10 Commandments and the Golden Rule. He was totally human, believe me, in every way. It could be very irritating because he was always right. Now, that's a nightmare, you know. At times, you want to just throttle him because he was always right. Bogey had plenty of faults, I mean, you know, but his character was amazingly, amazingly strong and pure. I was very lucky. 25 years and no 25 years. Some women never have that. I have no complaints.
That famous line that every film buff knows, from To Have and Have Not.
I don't believe it. You wouldn't.
I would.
Oh, you would.
Oh, yeah, come on. I need a closing for this piece. Come on, be a pal, do it for me.
I know, I know. You don't have to act with me, Steve. You don't have to say anything. You don't have to do anything. Oh, maybe just whistle. You know how to whistle, don't you, Steve? You just put your lips together and blow.
I love you, Betty. We're done.
I'd kill you for this.
We're done.
I'd kill you for this.
In Jackson Hole, Wyoming, the tall man with the hard, handsome features looks like a local, a regular guy. A former carpenter, Harrison Ford has fashioned by hand a film career of unprecedented proportions. When pressed, he'll grudgingly admit he is in show business. But make no mistake, Harrison Ford is not into show. He's all business. He has been in more blockbuster movies than any actor in history, starring in 7 of the top 20 grossing films of all time, from Han Solo in Star Wars, to Indiana Jones, to Jack Ryan in Patriot Games, to The Fugitive. Harrison Ford is the thinking man's action star. He projects an intoxicating combination of bravado and vulnerability. His motto seems to be, always let him see you sweat. As a boy growing up in the Chicago suburbs, Harrison was a self-described wimp. He admits to napping his way through college. In fact, he was the classic underachiever.
Paging Mr. Ellis.
Until he found 2 things he liked.
Room 607.
Carpentry and acting. This was his first movie, 1964's Dead Heat on a Merry-Go-Round.
Hey, baby. What do you say?
He would go on to play in countless episodic television series until he was offered a small role in one of the biggest movies of 1973.
Hey, you're supposed to be the fast thing in the valley, man, but that can't be your car. It must be your mama's car.
American Graffiti put him in the company of producer-director George Lucas, who was planning a risky follow-up project, a science fiction fairy tale that the studios predicted would bomb.
Both strap yourselves in. I'm going to make the jump to light speed.
20 years later, the Star Wars trilogy is again packing the theaters.
Hey! Hey!
It could be argued that Harrison became a star near the end of The Empire Strikes Back when he ad-libbed a line instead of sticking with the script.
I love you.
I know. There isn't going to be any trial.
He has been nominated for an Academy Award only once, in 1985, for Witness. He didn't win.
Hey! Get out! Get out!
This week, his 28th film will be released. It's called The Devil's Own, and it's gotten good word of mouth, but there has been controversy.
I need that money, Tom.
His co-star, Brad Pitt, badmouthed the film and then recanted, leaving the man on the mountain to pick up the pieces.
Oh, yeah, fantastic fishing.
Now 54, he has 2 young children from this marriage, 2 grown children from a previous one, and a grandson. His wife is screenwriter Melissa Matheson, who wrote E.T. In his Wyoming house, with meticulous woodwork that Harrison designed himself, he sat down and made me promise I wouldn't make him cry. How do you feel about Academy Awards? How do you feel about the whole business of getting awards and this once-a-year big deal or the other awards?
I just don't understand the need to name something the best or more better than something else. Saying one thing is better than another, one performance is better than another performance. There can't be a contest in this area. I don't understand that.
Would you care if you never won an Academy Award?
Haven't won one yet.
Hasn't seemed to diminish.
I'm still doing okay.
You're still smiling. Yeah. Do you think that you are underrated as an actor, or do you feel pretty good about your career? Nope. You think you're overrated as an actor?
Possibly.
Are you proud of your career?
I'm delighted with it. I don't know whether I can say I'm proud of it or not. I mean, there are moments that I have. Yes, I'm proud of it. Damn right I am.
Okay. You've just got to get a grip. I mean, Harrison, I have told you, you've just got to get a grip.
No, I am. I've been very lucky. I've been enormously lucky. I've worked with some really great people.
You usually have a very good reason for picking a project. Why did you pick The Devil's Own?
I liked the script, and I wanted to work with Brad, whose work I had admired before, and thought it would be a good match.
Well, there were so many rumors coming from the set that you and Brad Pitt were rewriting the script every day, that you and he didn't get along. He said to Newsweek, this was the most irresponsible bit of filmmaking I've ever seen.
And then he said...
Then he said, I didn't really mean it.
No, not I didn't really mean it. What he said specifically was that he was speaking about the time previous to actually starting to shoot. And I'll tell you, he could have been quoting me as well. We weren't able to develop a script in that amount of time that satisfied everybody involved. And so we had to start shooting without a full script. I'll tell you that there was no rivalry between the two of us for more screen time. And I would be happy to work with him again. I think it's a good film.
Look, you wouldn't be doing this interview if you didn't like the film, probably.
No, I wouldn't be doing this interview if I didn't like you.
Oh, that's the nicest thing you've ever said to me.
Well, I planned it that way.
Oh, now I'm going to ask you all those questions that I was going to ask. You were eventually paid $20 million for The Devil's Own, and you have a percentage, I read.
Yeah.
That's a good deal. So is it, I don't know how to put it, is it about the money?
I don't know how to put it either.
Maybe that's the way to put it.
What do you mean, is it about the money?
Well, because you have a percentage of the film, so this is a film, I mean,
I have a percentage of every film that I've done in the last 15 years. That sort of goes along with the territory.
In an interview a few years back, though, you said, I am in this business for the money.
Well, I mean that in the nicest possible way. I mean that this is my job. I am in show business. I don't for a minute ever forget that this is a business that I'm involved in, and it plays by business's rules.
Let's go back a bit. When you were a kid, you have described yourself as a wimp. You were the kid that they would beat up, or that they would, what did they do, lower you over a ledge, an edge? Or,
no, we had this,
this
school was built up to the height of the road above some lower-lying agricultural fields. And each day the school's bullies
yeah,
would come, and they would drag me to the edge of the parking lot and throw me down the slope. And then I would get up and I'd crawl back up to the top, and they'd take me and sling me off again.
Why didn't you fight back?
Oh, because I always operated under the theory that if you're fighting with somebody,
yeah,
and you hit them, it was probably going to make them even madder.
What a poor schnook you were.
Oh, no.
Oh,
no,
this was really very smart?
The girls love me.
Why? They don't like the wimp.
Oh,
you're a cute wimp.
I was a wimp with character. No, I never gave up. I just never let them win, really.
Would you give your sons this same advice?
No, I'd say deck the sucker.
I don't want to single you out, but I'm going to have to in what I say. But you seem to be, to the public, more balanced, less intoxicated by the whole show business or by the movie star business than most. Is it because the success came later? Because you had that period where nothing much was happening, a lot of television roles, and that's when you became a carpenter.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know anything about being a carpenter?
No. No, I bought a house in the Hollywood Hills, and I started to fix it up. So I got some books on carpentry, and I started buying a few tools. I realized I wasn't going to be able to pay somebody else to do this work. I was going to have to do it myself. Pretty soon I had too much invested in tools to go out and buy any materials. So I went and got a job as a carpenter. I looked, you know, I had the costume, I had the tools.
You had the jeans? And
I
you
had the book from the Encino Public Library. And when Sergio Mendes walked me around his backyard and showed me where he wanted the recording studio built and asked me questions about it, I gave him the answers that I imagined would be suitable. And I got the job. So my first job was a $100,000 recording studio for Sergio Mendes in his backyard in Encino.
How long were you a carpenter?
About 10 years. I wanted to hold out for movie work, for features. And the only way I could do that, the only way I could turn down an acting job involving money was if I had some other way to put food on the table.
When American Graffiti was first offered to you? You turned it down.
Well, I turned it down because they were only going to give me $485 a week for it. And I held out.
Because you had all this money being a carpenter.
Yeah, I said to Fred Roos, who called and offered me the job, that I could make twice that much as a carpenter, and that I couldn't afford to take the job. So I hung up the phone on him.
And he came back?
In 2 hours. He'd offered me $485, and he called me back 2 hours later and told me that he and George and Gary Kurtz had gone over the entire budget, and they had been able to find more money for me.
How much more?
$15 a week.
More, and so for $15 a week you took it. Boy, you sure played hard to get. There's also the story of your first film in which you had one line. I like that story.
I played a bellboy in Dead Heat on a Merry-Go-Round. And my lines, I didn't have one, I had more than one line.
Sorry.
Paging Mr. Jones, that's one line. Paging Mr. Jones, that's 2 lines. Mr. Jones, when he nodded at me and gestured me over. 3 lines.
That's a big part.
Well, this guy called me into his office the next day and he said, sit down, kid. This guy always called me kid. He was about 5 years older than me, but he always called me kid. I said, yeah. He said, I just saw the film from yesterday. He said, you're not going to make it. You ought to just forget this business. I said, yeah, why? He said, I'll tell you a story. He said, the first time Tony Curtis ever was on screen, he delivered a bag of groceries. A bag of groceries. You took one look at that guy and you said, that's a movie star. I said, I thought you were supposed to think that that was a grocery delivery boy. He said, get out of here. And that was
and we never heard of that man again. Has he tried to hire you since?
Not at current prices, no.
Okay, American Graffiti was the breakthrough.
Yeah.
But Star Wars was the, wow. The success now, I mean, that it's been reissued and that there are lines and box office and surprising?
Phenomenal. I mean, release a 20-year-old movie
and have people
and have it make, frankly, more money than it did the first time, and have this kind of interest and excitement. It's phenomenal, and a testimony to how truly important the work that George did there is.
Would you play Han Solo again?
It's a pretty thin character for me at this point.
Would you play Indiana Jones again?
In a New York Minute.
Really?
Mm-hmm. It's a question of Steven Spielberg and I finding a slot that we have in common.
You were a philosophy major in college. Do you have a philosophy by which you live today?
I don't think I have something that's pronounceable as a philosophy.
Do you believe in the Force?
When it was fashionable to say, may the Force be with you, I always said, force yourself.
Now it's fashionable again.
Well, I'll say again then, the Force is within you. Force yourself.
We're doing something a little different for our May special, and we're excited about it. We're talking to the people we believe will be the next generation of superstars. Actors Leonardo DiCaprio and Drew Barrymore, 14-year-old country music star Leanne Rimes, and others. We call the special 6 to Watch, and we hope you will. Thank you, Woody, Betty, Harrison, and all of you for being with us on Oscar night. Good evening.
Hi, Miss Bacall.
Hi, Linda. How are you?
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Are you going to slice us some Nova?
I sure am. Tell me what you need.
But from the center, cut.
From the center.
She's very fussy. It sounds like a very fussy customer to me.
I think one of the first things that came out here is the moose, right where that branch is and that tough snow.
Can you fish here?
Oh, yeah, fantastic fishing.
And just try the forward bend. That's really, to me, one of the most crucial stretches. and all of yoga right there. All right. Be happy to. All right, I get to New York, so.
I hope so.
The Barbara Walters Special.
So, you have been nominated for an Academy Award. When you heard about it, what was your first reaction?
Disbelief, then shock, then, you know, I think I went through the 7 stages of death or something.
How do you think Humphrey Bogart would feel if you won?
Oh, I think he'd be very proud of me. I think he'd be very happy that I am at least being given credit for being an actress, because, you know, I never really have been.
Would you care if you never won an Academy Award?
Haven't won one yet.
Hasn't seemed to diminish you. Hasn't.
I'm still doing okay.
You're still smiling. Theater owners named him the star of the century. We know him as Harrison Ford, and what a year he is having. The Star Wars trilogy is sweeping the nation, and his new thriller, The Devil's Own, opens in just a few days. He is known for being a man of few words, and he was 25 years her senior. Much of her life has been spent in the great actor's shadow. That suits her just fine.
What'd you do that for?
I'm wondering whether I'd like it.
What's the decision?
I don't know yet.
From her debut film, To Have and Have Not, in 1944, until Bogart's death in 1957, their relationship was as much a part of Hollywood history as Oscar itself.
You know how to whistle, don't you, Steve? You just put your lips together and blow.
Betty Davis once said Bacall was perfect for Bogart because she matched his insolence.
Speaking of horses, I like to play them myself. But I like to see them work out a little first.
And you could feel it on screen in movies like The Big Sleep.
Got a touch of class, but I don't know how far you can go.
A lot depends on who's in the saddle.
Her productive acting years were mostly sacrificed to be wife to Bogey and mother to their 2 children, a son and daughters. The film is The Mirror Has Two Faces.
Well?
Oh, my God.
And it's a career capper for Lauren Bacall, nominated tonight for Best Supporting Actress.
You're the mother of the bride, not the opening act.
Fine, I'll go home and change.
Oh, stop it. We're late already.
Rose, who's on the phone?
Some feel the character captures Bacall's personality as much as Bacall captures the character. Surface strength, inner doubts, the undisclosed interior life of a woman who has been a star for over half a century.
How did it feel?
How did what feel?
Being beautiful?
Stop it.
No, I mean it. How did that feel?
It was wonderful.
The first thing you need to know is that no one calls her Lauren. It's either Betty, her real name, or Miss Bacall. Second, although she was married to Humphrey Bogart for only 11 years, in few interviews, but tonight he opens up, and the news is that Harrison Ford is funny, particularly describing how he went from master carpenter to the most successful star in motion picture history. We also have 2 other stars hoping to make motion picture history this Oscar evening. The gregarious Woody Harrelson, nominated for Best Actor in The People vs. Larry Flint, and the gracious Lauren Bacall, nominated for Best Supporting Actress in The Mirror Has Two Faces. One is known for doing almost anything, and the other for saying almost anything. And tonight we catch them both at their unpredictable best. So, Woody Harrelson, Lauren Bacall, and finally, Harrison Ford. It's Oscar night, and the force is with us. We hope you will be too.
The Barbara Walters special will continue with Lauren Bacall and Harrison.
How wonderful to have 2 compassionate.
But she never complained. She made other films, was a smash on Broadway, and had an unsuccessful second marriage to actor Jason Robards, with whom she also had a son. She says she'll never live in Hollywood because she is the consummate New Yorker.
Are you going to slice us some Nova?
Often shopping at Zabar's Gourmet Delicatessen on Manhattan's Upper West Side.
Good luck at the awards.
Thank you. I'll need it.
Tonight at age 72, she has been nominated not for the woman she was, but for the woman she is. How important is it to you if you win or if you lose? And don't tell me that you don't care who wins, it's just the pleasure of being nominated, because I won't believe you.
I know. If I don't win, no. I'm trying not to think about it, frankly. I mean, I really have been trying to sell myself a bill of goods, talking to myself, saying, oh, no, it doesn't really matter, because it is true that there are no guarantees in my profession, you know, that very often something has come out of left field that has not been heard of before, and suddenly somebody wins that you didn't expect to win. So I do think